Welcome guys, this is Ilaros aka Drozilla23 here. In this video I am going to analyze Arcane backgrounds in hopes of improving my backgrounds. We are going to analyze these three scenes here. There are timestamps in this video for you if you were to wish to skip to a particular scene analysis. Before I started analyzing, I watched the two video series of Pam animation background tutorials to prepare myself, which are linked in the description. Now, without further ado, let's begin. Now, this scene stood out to me in season 1 of Arcane. It is very busy with details, yet they still managed to make it look pleasing. Now, what I've learned in my digital art journey so far is that it is good to have three grounds in an environment painting: foreground, middle ground, and background. So let's start by establishing where these grounds are in this scene. There we go. Now, as you may notice, the background's colors are way less saturated and faded compared to the middle ground and foreground's colors. Another thing to notice is how the colors become cooler as the buildings are farther away. Now let's look a little bit at composition. There is this triangular-ish shape behind the characters to give space to them. As you can see, it is very open with little to no lines clashing into the characters, making the focus very clear. I have heard a lot about how lines in a painting usually point to the main focus in a subtle way. I think we can say the same thing is happening here. The perspective lines of the buildings and the clouds point to Piltover, which is the focus in this scene. Now let's look at the furthest back of the painting. Now, I've heard a lot about the importance of silhouettes in my art journey, and it is safe to say the Arcane background artists definitely did not forget that either, because if you take a look at these buildings, they have very clear silhouettes against the light colored sky that even if you were to remove all the details and fill them in with flat colors, they would still look great. Atmospheric perspective is when things that are farther away become faded and blue due to the dust and water vapor and gases and stuff in the air. So as you can see here, they made good use of atmospheric perspective. Let's talk about horizon lines a little bit. The higher the horizon line, the harder it is to draw, because the higher up the camera is, the more details it will capture. As you might have noticed, this painting is packed with details. For me personally, I don't think I still have the means to pull off painting backgrounds with high horizon lines yet, because details are my insecurity. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention, not only is there open space for the characters, the space behind is shaded and desaturated because it is conveniently not facing the direction of the sunlight. It is certainly not a coincidence. It gave the characters the pop it needed. And yeah, I think there are two focuses in this scene, with the main focus being Piltover and the second focus being Vi and Powder and whoever that guy is. Now let's move on to the second scene. The first thing I noticed is how well Vi is framed in this precise second. Vi's dark silhouette against the white clouds. It's awesome. Now, framing device is a recent word that I learned from Pam Animation's tutorials. It is when artists use foreground objects or any objects to subtly frame the focus of the painting. Usually, framing devices are dark and desaturated to not take the attention away from the focus. Now let's look at the horizon line. It is tilted. This is amazing. I did not think about the tilted horizon line when I chose this scene to analyze. This is nice. I never thought to add a tilted horizon line in my backgrounds before. Now I know it can be done. Not only is it tilted, it is also a low horizon line, making the details necessary much less, making it a little more beginner friendly, may I add. Now let's look at the light source. It is very clear where the light is shining from by looking at the cast shadows and highlights. This is lighting 101. Keep your light source clear. Now, if you look at the buildings from farther away, it is not very faded, but atmospheric perspective is still there. This time it is less blue and more gray because now we are in the city and nice blue fades only happen in really far and less dusty areas. Now I forgot to say this, but in the previous scene, vanishing points were all over the place because some buildings were tilted and rotated. But here there is only one clear vanishing point, right in the middle of the horizon line. Right, so the framing device is high in value and very desaturated. The sunlight casted area has less value, but notice how it is still very desaturated so as not to take away attention from Vi doing a stunt over there. Right, so I forgot to establish the three grounds here. There is a tiny background in the back if you look closely. Then there's middle ground and of course the foreground. Now let's move on to the third scene. Now, this is my kind of background. A lot of juicy organic shapes, very low horizon line, perspective is non-existent. Hell yeah! As you can see, there is this toothpaste shape repeated a lot in the huge tree Caitlin and Jace are sitting under. And a lot of round shapes. And each shape is repeated again and again and again. And that's what makes this painting look great. Here is the horizon line in case it is hard to notice. Now the characters are still framed. Notice how the background of Jace and Caitlin are conveniently dark. It is not a coincidence. The artists are making a very intentional choice to make the characters pop. Look at the flowers that are very up close. The details are all there, but they are all very dark and desaturated because otherwise they would take away the attention, and we don't want to do that. And again, atmospheric perspective. The buildings in the back are very faded, and I think they could have gotten away with making them straight out flat colored. Let's talk a little bit about the colors, because there are no saturated colors in this scene. This painting got very nice color palettes, but everything is worked out by values. You think the purple flowers of the tree are saturated? You'd be wrong, because they are not saturated at all. Well, they have medium saturation at most, and I find that very interesting. Again, built over buildings have nice silhouettes. The direction of the sunlight is very clear. This is definitely the work of masters. Masters? Masters. Okay, please don't go yet, because I want to show you a background painting that I did. If it looks like Rapunzel's tower, it's because one of Pam Animation's tutorials mentioned Tangled, and I realized too late I was drawing the Tangled tower subconsciously. Next week I am drawing my room, so if you want to see that, stay tuned, because I know in this background I failed to implement everything that I learned from these analysis, and I am going to try to implement everything that I know in the next background painting that I am going to be doing, and then I am gonna compare those two. So yeah, if you like this video, feel free to give a thumbs up and subscribe, please. I really need the subscribers. I am broke, and it would be really nice to have a lot of subscribers. Okay, the last seconds will be the notes I took from the background tutorials of PM animations. Feel free to take screenshots if you want. See ya!